Welcome to the Darcy Wellness Show. During our series, we want to present you with information on complementary and alternative medical options that are non-drug, non-surgical options to help increase your wellness. Today we're going to talk about weight loss. My name is Geoff Darcy. I'm an acupuncturist, herbalist, and the director of the Darcy Wellness Clinic in Natick. And with me is my wife, Darcy, who has been involved in natural food and weight loss issues for about 30-odd years, and Yuanling Liu, who is the acupuncturist, herbalist, and registered dietitian, also at the Darcy Wellness Clinic. So welcome.
Thank you.
So maybe we kick off with our first slide, that lovely slide of your favorite slide, Yuanling, of the giraffe. Now, this is what would happen to a giraffe if they introduced McDonald's for animals in Africa.
Oh.
You know, the sad thing is, Yuanling, that 58 million Americans are now overweight, and that 40 million are obese, and 3 million morbidly obese. I mean, this is an epidemic of giant proportions.
Definitely. That's what happened. Unfortunately, as our life standard improves, we have a lot more options. Unfortunately, because our lifestyle in a fast pace, sort of food become not a need for the body, become, just part of a life that's creating more problem than supporting our lifestyle.
No, and it's getting worse. 8 out of 10 25-year-olds are overweight. So what's happening now already, diabetes, heart disease, complications from this overeating or eating the wrong foods are ballooning, so that within a decade or 2 decades, the epidemic that is now occurring is going to be even worse. It's going to hit Medicaid and Medicare, enormously. So in the last 30 years, this has occurred. 20 years ago, talking about food sizes, the plates that foods served upon was 80% smaller. So within 20 years, the manufacturers of plates have increased their plate sizes. So going back to my mother's adage is you can't leave the table till you finished everything on your plate.
Right.
So we're getting sucked in more and more. Why do you think? What's happening in our society? It's a fast pace of life, I know. People aren't cooking as much as they used to.
That's right. I actually just read a statistic that since 1993, more Americans are spending more money on their food dollar eating out than they are eating in.
Wow.
So, and that's just increased since 1993. So every year, like you were saying, it has to do with the fact that people can afford more, so unfortunately they're robbing themselves of nutrients because they're eating out, they're having someone else cook their food.
Probably more stressed, lack of time to prepare
food. Lack of time,
food.
People aren't taking the time to sit down and eat, There's a whole slew of problems with that.
Here's another statistic. 78% of Americans are not meeting basic activity recommendation levels.
Right.
So not only are we putting more in, and bad stuff at that, we're not working it off. 78% are not meeting even the basic requirements to burn some of the too much food we're putting in and burn it off.
Well, when it comes to weight loss, it's really such a simple thing, and it's so hard for people to do. It's diet and exercise. And I just recently saw a comic cartoon, and it was diet and exercise, and people were coming into this weight loss clinic, and it was diet and exercise, and the two people were saying, oh, come on, seriously, what do we need to do? Like people want a quick fix. They want something that doesn't take effort. And, really to address the weight loss issue, it's a lot of issues that you need to start to look at. Lifestyle, time management, understanding food differently, really understanding what foods to avoid and what foods to increase.
So we've got the horror story of the 76% increase in type 2 diabetes in adults 30 to 40 years old since 1990. So we're talking 17 years. There's been a 76% increase in type 2 diabetes, which is almost certainly dietarily related. So, I mean, that's an enormous kick in the behind, really, should be for our society to start to try to do something about it. So if we could go to our next slide. And you know, this is a scary one too. You know, 125% in children in 1 year.
Well, related to the American diet, the two tastes that food manufacturers cultivate for Americans is sugar, sweet, and salty. And the average American takes in 20 teaspoons of sugar, added sugar, per day. That doesn't include the sugar that's already in the processed food. So that is what's leading you to diabetes and issues related to sugar and pancreatic and, you know, cardiovascular disease.
Right. So let's look at what some of the healthier cultures are eating. We
Right.
know that, you know, the Okinawans, in the Okinawan study, it showed that they have the highest longevity in the world. They have 80% less heart disease. They have 80% less estrogen receptive cancers. And they're eating between 9 and 12 portions of fruits and vegetables a day.
Right.
They're eating very little meat. They're eating a lot of fish. They're eating rice, and most of it is unrefined foods.
Right.
You know, we know that in Crete that they also have very high levels of antioxidants in their blood, high levels of longevity, and that in the Mediterranean diet is also very high in fresh fruits and vegetables in areas that have been studied. In the Crete study, they're also eating a wide range of greens, naturally grown greens that they're bringing into their diet through salads. And we know from looking at the China study, very large study done at Cornell, that done by Cornell or helped by Cornell in China, that the correlation between animal protein and heart disease and cancer is huge. Above 5% intake of animal protein increases cancer and heart disease massively. And in areas that weren't affluent enough to be able to afford dairy products and animal proteins, they had practically zero levels of heart disease and cancer. So it was that dramatic that study pulled out. So the kind of diet that we're stuck in is responsible for a lot of disease, but it's also responsible for many of us getting overweight. So from that perspective, coming back in, you know, we're taking aim at fast food. You know, if people are really interested in losing weight and getting down to work, a lot of our approach is much more holistic. It's not about eat so many grams of this food and so many grams and weigh your food like this and weigh your food like that. How would you sum up our holistic approach at the Darcy Wellness Clinic?
Our holistic approach really looks at food as energy. So a calorie is not a calorie. I mean, scientifically, a calorie is a calorie, but from our perspective, the quality of the calorie makes a huge difference. So
that would also be about organic foods as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I really stress choosing organic foods because those have nutrients. I think what happens when you are choosing conventional produce, the nutrient value is so much less now because of a variety of reasons. So consequently, people are eating and eating more, but they're not satisfied.
Yeah.
So they're not getting, because they're not getting the nourishment and the nutrients.
Maybe we could go to our next slide. So basically what you're saying then, organic food doesn't have the same vitamins and nutrients as, or even the same quality of antioxidants as chemically grown, you know, with herbicides, pesticides food.
That's right. I can't, you know, people often say organic food is too expensive, but honestly, you're really throwing your money away when you're not buying organic food,
right,
because it doesn't have the nutrient value.
So we know that a diet high in fruits and vegetables is low in diabetes and heart disease.
Yes.
And it's also lower in the amount of weight people are putting on.
If you did nothing else but increase the amount of fruits and vegetables in your diet, you will be doing a lot for your health.
Right. So that's a big deal for your health, but it's also a big deal for weight loss.
Right.
And it's not a quick fix. We're talking about shifting your lifestyle on an ongoing basis. And
That's right.
that means the more fruits and vegetables, the less refined foods. Anything that comes out of a packet, out of a can.
Yeah, no nutrient value, or less, you know, much less nutrient value. So you're going to be eating, but you're not going to be satisfied.
Yeah. If we go to our next slide about why organic, you know, that vegetables have many more vitamins and trace elements in. And in fact, there was a study you could tell us about in the 1940s, Poe, where they found that food had more vitamins and minerals back then than they have presently now. And it's believed because fields were being left fallow, the quality of the food was so much greater. There was less herbicides and pesticides going onto the food.
That's right.
And a much better quality of soil. So that, and many of the vegetables and fruits that are grown out of the U.S. that are non-organic have herbicides and pesticides that are actually banned by the FDA in the U.S. So, the idea of having more vitamins and minerals and less, having zero pesticides and herbicides is also a great quality food.
Well, this is particularly an issue for children and for women because they are smaller. The pesticide limits are based on a 150-pound adult male. And, when you accumulate all of the different pesticides that are on, you want to eat 7 to 12 servings of fruits and vegetables, but unfortunately that's going to really burden you with the chemical residues. So choosing organic is the way to avoid that and to give yourself the nutrients and the antioxidants that you're looking for in the first place.
So, Yuanling, as an acupuncturist, herbalist, but also as a dietitian, how do you work with people around weight loss issues? I mean, there's no quick fix. I think everybody agrees with that.
Right. So first of all, we have to identify what it is that's contributing weight loss. We need to identify very small things sometimes people don't realize. I have people do their meal diary. I ask them, after they have done it, I ask them to look through, see if they can identify any problem.
It's shocking, actually, if you go over everything you eat in a day.
Right. So one of my patients always say, "Oh, I barely eat anything, but I just gain weight." I said that statement might be correct. Some people have poor metabolism. That's where the herb and acupuncture comes in, promote better metabolism. But however, it's what we put in. We understand this concept really well when we're looking at our banking system.
That's right, that's right.
If we spend more than we earn, we don't have any leftovers.
That's right. I mean, that statistic of 76% increase in diabetes, and you have 25% of the population completely sedentary, and the rest of the population not meeting basic activity levels.
Right.
So eating more, poor quality foods, and exercising less. Hence the overweight epidemic.
Right. And so when you're looking at your daily, what you're eating, very simple things. I have one client that every time she eats a piece of bread, there's always butter on there. I said, that's additional fat that you're putting on. Of course, as time goes on, we develop certain habits, not that you need it. It's almost, it's a comfort food that you always eat in that way. So identify one thing. For very common problem for people gaining weight is eating late. We're on the go in the morning, lunch at work, eating in the car, and the dinner is the time that you have time to sit down with the family eating a large late meal. And nighttime, we all know it's a time that our bodies start slowing down, our metabolism, digestion process all slows down. So where things go, they pack right underneath our skin. And so identify little things, and small things day in, day out accumulate. So what we want to find is that you want to develop a meal plan that you can adapt daily. If you can be on a diet for 2 weeks, losing a certain amount of weight that you want, if you go off of it, you will gain the weight right back. So the idea of what we do here is provide a better support, that you change your lifestyle and also your eating habit gradually, small things at a time, so that you can live with the diet day in, day out. Or once in a while, if you go off, that wouldn't contribute so much.
So at your practice at the Darcy Wellness Clinic in Natick, you will take somebody, you'll look at what they're eating, you'll check out their metabolism if it's running low, like oftentimes around, menopausal women, when the metabolism starts to go down. You'll see if you can quicken it with herbs and acupuncture. So, Po, you're actually involved educating people, because oftentimes they want to know, like we run a program called the Diet Detox Program, and what Po does is an education, almost like this is an orange,
right.
Different vegetables that they haven't tried, different alternatives to salt, or soy that like Bragg. So how do you approach? When somebody sits down with you from an educational viewpoint, what are you looking to cover with them?
Well, the one thing I'm first looking to, the first point that I always make with people is that when you put in better quality nutrients into your body will automatically start to build better tissue.
Actually, maybe we could go to our next slide, because the next slide kind of...
Slough off anything of lesser quality.
So this is a slide that shows that it's a picture of a leaf with an energetic projection out of the leaf, but the top part of the leaf has been cut off and thrown away. It's a Curlian photograph. But the idea that that leaf has energy, food has energy.
Food has energy, and that is probably the biggest point I try to make with people, is that when you go and choose your food at the grocery store, that you look for food that has what we call life force, that has chi, that has energy. So that food, therefore, that energy will translate into your body. Food works forward, so you eat the food, it gives you the energy. If you were going to go out and shovel snow, for example, you would fortify yourself with food that is going to be building food. If you're going to be sleeping late at night and going to bed, you would be wanting food that would help you relax, not something heavy. So understanding that food has a purpose, it's fuel, it has an energetic signature that makes it actually easy to choose the food on your plate.
So the idea of warming foods, cooling
warming foods in the winter, cooling foods in the summer.
Yeah. So actually cooking the foods, putting energy into the foods in the winter, and then having more raw foods without the cooking, without the heat energy going into them.
And really,
so we're learning how to balance.
Balance the plate, and the primary focus of your plate should be grains and vegetables, and then with a moderate amount of protein and a moderate amount of sweet taste. There's a yin and yang explanation that I go through with people, where you understand that typically in an American meal, you'll eat maybe a big plate of steak and salty potatoes, and then even though that's more than enough calories, you'll still be hungry at the end because you're craving the other extreme, which would be the yin taste of the sweet. So if you can start to eat it more neutrally and more balanced, the cravings aren't there so much.
Plus the idea of quality. If the body's not getting the quality it needs, then it's going to look for more. It's a form of malnutrition, trying to put more in, and the body's extracting less out of more.
And when we do the week detox, or we do the 2-week detox,
actually, maybe we could go to the next slide on the diet detox program.
You get a great opportunity for 2 weeks to really focus on choosing the best quality food that you can. So what is this program? So this is a kind of a weight loss program that's about re-education, trying to reprogram people's cravings. So if they have an experience of fresh, real food over a 2-week period, they're able to then crave. There'll be a point when they're so hungry and it hits home that they'll crave that very nourishing meal and reprogram their cravings, rather than crave from McDonald's. If you have a McDonald's when you're absolutely starving, then you'll crave that McDonald's next time you're hungry. This is a way of reprogramming people, Po, right? So the idea of there are three phases. Just talk us through those phases a little bit. This is a 3-phase program, and each phase is, overall it's a detoxification, cleansing diet, but the first phase is the most detoxifying. Yeah. So in that phase,
fruits and vegetables,
you're eating just fruits and vegetables, lots of liquids, healthy liquids, and you will your body, because it's taking in higher quality nutrients, will experience some sloughing off of lesser quality nutrients in your body, so you'll experience some detox symptoms.
So if you've been drinking lots of coffee, then suddenly you stop, or lots of alcohol, you suddenly stop.
You'll get a headache, but those symptoms usually subside about the 3rd or 4th day, and then you start to feel what a difference eating healthy food makes to your energy. And people start to, by the end of the first phase, their nervous systems calm down, they feel calmer and more energized. Yeah. Then we move into phase 2, where you start to introduce grains and nuts and a few other things. So each phase is adding a few more things back in.
And this is within our philosophy of
food
with energy.
healthy,
organic where possible.
Full of life force kind of food.
So what do you add in the second phase?
You add in a cup of grain, which could look like brown rice, oats, even healthy noodles. Also almonds, almond butter, nuts, rice cakes, a little bit more oil. Things that just is enough to change it's pretty strict the first 6 days, and then you add these things in, it feels like you're eating almost back to normal. And then you move into phase 3 and you add in plant-based proteins.
Right. So what's the most weight loss anyone's had out?
We've had dramatic weight loss, depending on the person. If a person really needs to lose weight, they will lose up to 15 pounds.
Yeah.
Usually that's a lot of water weight, but again, if
And
your body's rebalancing itself, so it's not, you're not feeling deprived, you can eat as much of these fruits and vegetables as you want. And I think what happens is that people are very hungry in the beginning, and then as they go, their hunger starts to subside. So because they're getting the nutrients, they're not as hungry. So then they start to experience the food, their taste buds change, they get more enhanced. So a little bit goes a long way. And it's a re-education, it's a reprogramming. I really want people to cook their own food, bring food with them, don't buy fast food. And it's a kind of a big turnaround.
So it is shock therapy, because most people are eating very little fruits and vegetables. Actually, I saw a study, a Medicaid study, that showed utilization of Medicaid and Medicare based on portion of vegetables. And it started at a quarter portion, went up to half portion. I don't know who's eating a quarter portion of vegetables a day, but suddenly to go from that kind of a couple of portions to 9, 10, 12 portions on the diet detox is a shock to the system. But then you feel pretty darn good, and you don't want to jeopardize it by cheating.
That's right.
So it's a great reprogramming.
Yep.
It is kind of a shock therapy, but you do work with people individually. It's not just group
I do, and
related.
everybody's different. Some people will modify it depending on people's different. There's not one diet for everybody.
Yeah.
People have different constitutional makeups, and so I work with people, as does Yuanling, to kind of guide it and modify it and fit it for you, your lifestyle, what kind of foods you've grown up with, what your sort of ethnic background is. So there's not just one fix for everybody, but if there was one rule, it would be eat more fruits and vegetables.
Yeah. So Yuanling, if we go to our next study, acupuncture is widely used now in the US. There's like 8.2 million US adults have used acupuncture, which is pretty significant, is growing. So you treat people for weight loss. How does that start?
First of all, you also want to evaluate this person to find factors that's contributing the weight gain.
So the idea of if you're not processing the foods well, if your digestion energies are low.
Right, or eating the wrong types of food. For example, there are a lot of people, they eat a lot of dairy, and during wintertime they eat a lot of cold food, and they'll drink drinks with ice in there. All of those retards movement. When we all know.
It always strikes me strange. You sit down at a restaurant and there's snow and ice outside. You're freezing. The first thing that hits the table is ice water. Unbelievable. Yep. So all of that, from a Chinese perspective, lowers the digestive fire.
Right. So in order for the digestion to happen, the fermentation and the enzyme to start degrading the food, it needs to be at least 37 Celsius degree. That's about 98 or a little higher. So imagine you're drinking ice cold water, and
so you're lowering the core temperature of the stomach.
So our body has to spend more energy to raise the temperature in order to have the digestion process happening. And if you eat one day like that, maybe it's not jeopardizing anything. But if you're eating like that long term, that creates a lot of digestion problems. People after eating feeling bloating, gassy, and in a way, things are not being processed. It accumulates in the body. And a lot of people, they might not be overweight, but they just feeling heavy, sluggish of the body. Those are all retarded movement. We talk about poor metabolism. So what we do is that using the appropriate herb for each individual, that looking at their condition. For people who are poor metabolism, there are a lot of dampness in the body. We re-educate them that eating the proper food to bring up the function. And acupuncture and herbs also helps to,
So if we could go to our next study. So the idea of acupuncture really helping to stimulate the release of endorphins in the body, the kind of feel-good, pain-relieving chemicals. And there are treatments specifically, in the ear where you put pellets that stay on certain appetite control points in the ear. So there are symptomatic treatments to help appetite suppressant. But there is also, by itself, that's not going to do it, because as soon as you stop the acupuncture, the appetite's raging again.
Right.
So you use both, appetite control plus re-education and working with the constitution?
Definitely. So we have talked about you actually, each individual, you are in control of your own life. You live with this body day in, day out, so who knows better than you? So other people come along can only help you to move along the process. If you don't take initiation yourself, just like smoking, no matter how much other people tell you, if you have not decided, it's very hard. So it is like breaking a habit. So we're changing small things at a time, and you feel the big difference. So the acupuncture and herb are here to help you. Just like going through...
If we could go to our next slide. So to put your dietitian's hat on, how do you work with people?
So someone comes in for weight management. I ask them to do 3 days of...
I see, that's not a picture of you.
So they'll come in with 3 days of meal diary, so that we can at least analyze what they're actually eating and what it is that's causing the weight gain. And the next thing is that we, do a meal plan. We change small things at a time. In this society, we like dramatic, large changes that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
A lot of diets that, it's great, I was on for a few weeks, I lost some weight. You go back to your old shoes, same thing will happen again. So then we incorporate into acupuncture treatment and herbal medicine to sort of a day in, day out reinforcement.
So if we could go to our final slide, we have on our website, darcynaturals.com, 2 articles, one on weight loss. There's a whole program you can read more about how to lose weight, and also cleansing dietary herbal programs, so how to use diet and herbs to help the liver filter better and help with processing fats better. So that's at our website, darcynaturals.com. I wanted to thank you very much, Yuanling, for coming along today and talking to us about weight loss and your practice of herbs, acupuncture, and as a dietitian at Darcy Wellness Clinic in Natick. Po is your nutritional counselor, and your great work and great food I can attest to, natural food. Thanks very much for coming along. And for myself, Geoff Darcy, acupuncturist and herbalist at the Darcy Wellness Clinic in Natick, I want to thank you very much for joining us for a more holistic approach to natural weight loss. And we hope you join other programs in our series. So I want to thank you and your family I wish you and your family all the very best for your health.